Hey guys, welcome back to the Prog Round Table. It's good to see you guys. How's everybody?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Good, doing
Excellent.
good,
I'm
Well,
awesome.
awesome. How are you, Nathan?
doing good,
Good, Mike?
doing well, doing well.
Right on. Well, today we're going to present what we think are three album runs that probably just meaning to your own individuality, how you might rank them against other people. So that's going to make this kind of fun. So, Ian, we'll have you go first.
Okay, golly gosh, the onus is on me to kick off the ball rolling. Okay, so when I was sort of like coming up with ideas for this video, I ended up with like 28 different bands who I could potentially talk about, and I'm not going to do 28 different bands because we'll be here all day. I don't think everybody else has got quite as many as that, but whatever. But the one that I really, really wanted to like sort of like get off my chest and really just sort of take ownership of for the best three album run chronologically for me personally is none other than one of my favorite bands of all time, of Between the Buried and Me, which I mean, anybody who knows the band is probably pretty on the money as to where I'm going to be starting with this. And my run is pretty easy, to be honest. It goes from Colors, The Great Misdirect, and Parallax 2 Future Sequence, because I'm not gonna lie, I briefly dabbled with putting Alaska first, but then I realized I'd have to cut Parallax 2 out of the equation if I did that, and I just simply couldn't do that. Because I mean, if we were doing perfect four album runs, then sure, we would have gone Alaska, Colors, Great Misdirect, and Parallax 2, but we're not doing that. We're doing three. And for me, I do feel that this is really the sort of era of the band where they became the sort of the prog death metal legends that we now associate them with being. It was very much a case of Alaska was that sort of, that sort of interim period where they were sort of moving on from that metalcore sound into the more progressive elements. And it does still contain like some of my favorite songs from the band, but it's really obviously Colors, which I will always and forever cite as my favorite record from any band across any genre of all time. Moving on into the really freaky, weird quirkiness of The Great Misdirect, where they swim to the moon and all that sort of stuff going on with there. And then obviously moving on to what I often will cite as the height of their absolute peak of creativity with Parallax 2, with as many leitmotifs and callbacks to as much as you can possibly imagine, like obviously throwing back to the Parallax 1 EP, the whole storyline with the night owls and everything like that gets thrown in there, and so much just it just feels so detailed and so integrated with the rest of their songwriting that I just couldn't help but love that record. And for me, that sequence of three, I mean, above any other band that I've got, the other 27 bands that I've got on here, for me, that triple sequence, that 1, 2, 3 combo is just absolutely unbeatable. And at the time, as each of these records came out, I was like, do you know what? These guys are pretty much the best band in the universe for me right now. And just mwah.
Nice pick.
I'm with you on that. Totally with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I even agree with your position on Alaska. Like, there's a small part of me that would really love to jam that in there and make it a 4 album run, but it's just enough of a transitional record. Like, yeah, I absolutely see where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the three best BT Bam records for me, and I almost included it in mine, but I'm like, no, I know Ian's going to put that on there, so I don't have to worry about that.
Take fierce ownership over my precious boys.
Absolutely.
Right on. What about you, Travis?
Okay. I'm gonna start mine off with something in a very similar sort of vein. Something a little more on the progressive metal side that I think a lot of us probably enjoy. And this one, kind of similar to Ian, you could really extend this to be like the album before it and the album after, and it would be the band's entire discography at that point. And I'm wondering if anybody's going to have me beat for the length of time this 3 album run takes. I'm talking about Tool.
Oh,
I have those in mind. It's going to see if it's the same three, though. We're going to see if it's the same three.
Enema Lateralis 10,000 Days.
Ooh, so close. So close to being right.
I mean, yeah, like, you could include Undertow. Undertow's a great record. It's it's Tool, and Fear Inoculum is just a really great like return to form for the band after taking 13 years off. But yeah, Anima Lateralis 10,000 Days are usually kind of referred to by the general fandom as their like trio of iconic records. I mean, of course, Anima is just perfect. Lateralis is beyond perfect. 10,000 Days, like I can see how some fans might react a little negatively to it. Like maybe it's a little too long for them. It's a little more mellow, but I think when I look at the track list, like there isn't really a song on there that I'm compelled to skip. Just three perfect records in a row. And yeah, so that's stretching from 96 to 2006, so a good 10-year span. It's a long time for 3 albums, but these are 3 albums that absolutely deserve to be seen as a perfect 3 album run.
I can't disagree with that ordering at all. Undertow, like you say, it's still great. I just felt, for me personally, it was kind of like the band was just about finding where they were. I mean, that being said, though, Tool didn't have as much of a wind-up time as some bands do. They kind of hit the ground running, let's be real here. But
For sure.
I do feel like Anima especially, and for me, Lateralis, I know cliche is my favorite Tool album. I'm never going to, but I can, do I prefer the traditional track listing or the alternate track listing? That's always a fun debate for me. Which order do I prefer? Because always
that's
the
a good
whole
question.
big thing with that.
Yeah.
I love 10,000 Days. I think it's a fantastic album, and I do feel that people dunked on it maybe a little bit unnecessarily, and I think maybe they were doing so because they thought it was cool to do so or something like that. But I love it. I think
maybe for me it's just because I just recently listened to 10,000 Days and I'm like I was into it. So
yeah, I'm gonna remove the 3 because I have them in my stash here.
I just noticed that.
But mine is Lateralis into 10,000 Days, and then I would include Fear Inoculum.
Okay.
So I'll put that away. I know I'm the odd one out, and I love Fear Inoculum. It's maybe my second favorite record from Tool, but I know I'm the odd one out.
I would cut Anima. It's too close to Undertow for me in sound.
And that's the thing.
And the 3 that we're speaking about, Mike, they sound.
Yeah, like there are tracks on Anima that I love, like, the big standout tracks, Opening My Third Eye and 46 and 2. Even Stinkfist is amazing. But like as an overall album from start to finish, I would much rather listen to Fear Inoculum.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, that would be mine as well. Starting with Lateralis to Fear Inoculum is my 3 album too.
It's kind of nice to see a bit of love for Fear Inoculum, because like it feels like when it first came out, everybody was like, "Oh hell yeah, Tool are back!" But then after like about a few months or so, people started dunking on it, and I'm just like, "It's a good record. Leave it alone."
I loved it.
I was kind of bored by it at first, but now that I've been listening to it a little bit more, I'm starting to kind of get it.
Yeah.
And its hype was really big, but when it came out, within months, it was. Nobody talked about it afterwards. It was just the hell was that?
Yeah, it was here and gone. Yeah.
All right, Nathan.
All right. I'll switch it up a little and go into more of a old school, like classic prog direction. And I was thinking about the band Yes, kind of maybe a layup of a choice, but for me, I don't know if this is controversial because there's like a 5 or 6 album run that you could probably pick any 3 from this era, but for me it probably starts with Close to the Edge, Tales, and then Relayer, I have to say.
Okay.
That's a great choice.
Yeah, some people might say it's, I know there's some mixed feelings maybe about Tales in there, but
I
love Tales.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I've been listening to Tales from Topographic Oceans for the better part of about 10 years, give or take, I would say, and I can kind of get it. I kind of get it, but at the same breath, I'm still finding it a very difficult album to fully appreciate, if that makes any sense. I mean, my 3 album Yes run is pretty basic, bitch. I want to see if anybody can guess it first.
Is it Yes album to Close to the Edge?
Yeah, it is. yes, album Fragile close to the edge because I'm a basic pumpkin spice latte white girl because that's my 3 album run for Yes. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
It's so good for me. I love it.
Yeah,
can't argue with that either. Yeah.
I mean, I have all of the Yes records on vinyl from Time and a Word to 902 or 90125, Beverly Hills 90125, whatever, And I think you could just pick any 3 of those records, maybe except 90125. And even then, like, some people really love that album, and I think there's some really good stuff on it.
Yeah.
But you can pick pretty much anything from like the Yes album to Drama, and just pick the 3 albums you like the most out of that, and you're solid. You're good.
Yeah, I have a very controversial pick for my 3. Like, I was thinking about at first, I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be like Fragile, Close to the Edge, and Tails. But then, like, it was so hard, But I think if brass tacks, in terms of my favorite album run, it would probably be Ladder, Magnification, and Fly From Here.
Ooh,
like those 3 albums really are the underdogs of their whole discography, and the more I listen to those 3 albums, the more I love them.
That is legit. I mean, I love The Ladder. I think The Ladder is absolutely fantastic. And like you say, dramatically underrated record. Like, again, I think people just decided to dunk on it because it was a late 90s entry and people had already assumed that Yes was dead and it doesn't have, like, whoever, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's not Yes. I'm like, shut up. It's a great record. Leave it alone.
I still haven't listened to The Ladder yet, so
it's
good.
I got to put that on my homework assignments.
Yeah,
the opening track
really strong.
Yeah, I've been doing a really deep dive into the Yes discography this past couple of weeks. And Magnification is still like one of my favorite albums of all time. And I went back and I looked at my own worst to best on Yes, and I will still stand by that Magnification I like more than Fragile. And I know that's a very hot take, but I just love the. It is pretty spicy.
It's spicy, but it's correct.
I love the orchestration. I love the orchestral sounds on it. So, yeah.
Fragile has a lot of filler. Like, people don't realize just how much some of that album was just kind of bodged together just to fill space.
But there's 4 main songs on that album.
Yeah,
it's basically an EP with like.
I mean, I don't want to dunk on Fragile. I love Fragile, and I love how each member has their own song that they brought to the table that nobody else had any say over, and then they came together and did the other 4 tracks. But there's something magical about Magnification.
Yes. All right, Mike, your first 3.
Okay, this was hard for me, as I've been lamenting to you guys, and now that I was able to open it up, these 3 were the ones that kept coming back to me as to when they came out, they kept surprising me of like how good they were and how good they kept being. So I'm taking a little bit of a sidestep away from prog and going more into accessible rock and more contemporary rock.
Okay.
And that is with Muse.
Ooh.
With Origins of Symmetry, Absolution, and Black Holes. I've got my little props here.
There we go. Look at these.
Look at you bringing props.
My 4 or my 3.
Our connection doesn't like Muse.
No, apparently not.
My int is not very good at the moment. I am so sorry. Like Muse, I'm so sorry. So these are my 3. Like, as much as I love The Resistance and as much as I love Showbiz, I still think that these 3 album runs are the best for Muse. They haven't done anything better.
Objectively speaking, you're correct.
These 3 records. I love.
Objectively, you're correct, but I still love The Resistance.
I have a love-hate relationship with Muse. Like, much like Mike has said, that 3 album run for Muse is honestly one of my favorite things from like that sort of alternative rock / metal from like the late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing. Everything on those albums absolutely bopped. There was nothing I can say was bad about them. But I just feel like Muse have kind of I don't know, disappeared into a bizarro dimension that I just don't understand anymore. Like, what are they even doing with their lives? What is Matthew Bellamy even trying to achieve with the band anymore? And I just have no idea. Like, Drones was absolutely god awful. I can't even remember what the next one that came after it was. And the most recent one that came out last year, I could have just thrown it in the bin and been quite happy to do so, because I just couldn't stand it. I thought it was objectively a terrible record, not just from Muse's like own particular standards, but from like just in general.
Music.
Exactly. It just frustrated me so much. And the reason why I found it so
I'll drink
frustrating
to
was
that.
because of how strong the band started off with. And like Micah said, that 3-album run was just so brilliant.
Yeah.
You have to kind of wonder what happened. Like, did he lose his drive or ideas?
Maybe money happened and the record executives were like, this is getting us
You
lots
don't
and
know
lots
that.
of dinero, so do more of that.
He started
because-
going down like the 4chan conspiracy rabbit hole.
Oh no.
And that's where he lost me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sad.
I need to get deeper into Muse. I see they're coming out with like a 20th anniversary of Absolution, I think.
Oh, are
I'm
they?
Okay.
Ooh.
gonna check that out.
Yeah, I might have to get a hold of that as well. That sounds pretty exciting.
I'm sure that was a great conversation that I completely missed because my internet completely cut out on me. I'm so sorry, guys.
You missed me dunking on later Muse records quite heavily. You know, I was like a basketball player with those records, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, there are moments that I love from the latter albums. Like, there are certain things from the Second Law that I love. I really do love Drones. There are moments on the Resistance that I really love, but like, I don't know. I just feel like the last couple of albums have just been major duds. Like, I've gone back and I've listened to the Simulation Theory and We Are the People, and I'm like, there's nothing here for me to enjoy. But you know that I cannot wait, and I keep telling my dad about the Absolution 20th anniversary box set that I'm like, Christmas, this is something for Christmas. I do not have the money to spend on this, but you do, so Christmas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of your dad, how was the concert, Mike?
Oh, it was so good. We went to see Peter Gabriel, and it was life-changing. I have a video coming on my channel on Friday talking about my experience. It's just, it was so good.
Excellent. I look
So,
forward to
so
that.
good. Yeah.
All right. My three are from a group that people are either going to like or absolutely hate because they don't like the Peter Hamill's vocals.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
So we're going to start with Pawn Hearts.
Nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect start.
And then God Bluff.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Perfect.
Then
Yeah.
finish up with
Still alive.
Still Life.
Yeah.
These albums
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with. I think they should be in everybody's collection.
Mhm.
Just so you have that taste of his songwriting and his mental view on things. He's a very different guy, but very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. All three of those albums have spent a considerable amount of time as being my favorite Van der Graaf Generator album.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
each one has spent at least 2 or 3 years as being my favorite Van der Graaf Generator album. So
it's another case of you're objectively correct, but my favorite is outside of that. My favorite from them is H to He Who Am the One.
Well, I had a hard time because that should have been,
Yeah.
if this was the best 4, it would have definitely been it. But
Yeah, if I was to do my 3, it would start with H to He and move up to God Bluff.
I mean, Pioneers Over Sea is just still one of the most terrifying pieces of music I've ever heard in my life.
Killer is such a great song too.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, there's just something about Still Life that I cannot stop coming back to, like La Rosa and that final track. Just every time I weep.
Yep. All right.
It did take me a long time to get into Van der Graaf Generator. Like, it's one of those bands where, like you say, you either do love or you do hate, at least initially, at least. And I'm not going to try and pretend otherwise. When I first listened to them, I just didn't get it. You know, I was just like, because I saw they were like one of the highest rated bands on Prog Archives. You know, you've got this huge number, like 4.3s, 4.4s out of 5. And I thought, okay, these guys are obviously something. So I tried it. Didn't really gel with it, moved on. Came back later, about maybe 2 or 3 years later, different state of mind. And I was like, oh wait, no, I get it now. This is amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it got to the point where I literally couldn't listen to them because I listened to them so much. And there was like a good 5 years where I couldn't even put on or drop the needle to a Van der Graaf album. I'm just like, no, I played them way too much. I need to take a little bit of a break.
all right, Ian, your second go around.
Oh, my second go around. I've been trying to debate which of these I kind of want to do, and I don't want to do another proggy like death metal one because I've just literally done that. So I'm gonna slip in before anybody else gets to it, and I'm gonna take Porcupine Tree as my my second band pick. Now, this is
But
always a
where is
fun
it?
one for
Where
me.
is
Yeah,
it?
exactly. This
Yeah.
is what I love about
Hmm.
Porcupine Tree and why I think it's such a good one to include in a video like this is because everybody's got their different favorites, and there are no wrong answers for Porcupine Tree because everything, even, and I will defend it to the death, on the Sunday of Life, I think is wonderful, and I will
Yep.
always stand that record. I think it's
Love that
fantastic.
record.
But I'm gonna go with the possibly more obvious. I looked around. He's waiting for it. He's waiting for it. Where are we gonna start? We're gonna start with In Absentia, Deadwing, Fear of a Blank Planet, in that order.
Yep.
Knew it.
Incredible. And for
Called
me,
it.
Yep.
that was like when Stephen Wilson decided that, you know, like that sort of alt metal of the early 2000s was kind of the direction he wanted to take the band in for a while. Obviously, you had a lot more sort of indie rock kind of stylings with like Stupid Dream and Lightbulb Sun, which I still love so very, very much. And this trio of albums is such a far cry away from things like Up the Downstairs, Voyage 34, you know, all those, even things like recordings and stuff like that. So far removed from that, but they really lent into that sort of kind of post-grunge feel. You know, there's a little bit of Alice in Chains going on to some of this sort of stuff, a little bit of like maybe like the Stone Roses and stuff like that, and a bit of like pulp or supergrass to some of it in some places as well. But there's also that dynamic heaviness, that edgy kind of almost juvenile aspect to it, but not in a bad way, more in a sort of like, it felt like Stephen Wilson had a lot of angst that he was trying to get out in his music. And it really comes across in just how aggressive some of the tracks on this triple run is, especially when you get into the real cynicism of the lyrics in Fear of a Blank Planet and how the sort of social commentary about the digital age and all that kind of thing. But for me, it's just the music across all of them was possibly the most exciting and dynamic that the band has ever sounded. And I will forever treasure that triple hit of those three records. It's just so chef kiss to me. I just adore it. Absolutely adore it.
Yeah, with you. And your first choice also included an EP that kind of came out during that period, and I'm compelled to say the Nil recurring EP it belongs in this 3-album perfect run because it's a perfect companion to Fear of a Blank Planet.
It's almost like it should have been a double album at that point, including the songs from the Nil recurring EP.
If I'm not mistaken, I think when they released it on vinyl, the Nil recurring EP was part of the record. So those songs are all included.
Yeah, my copy has one of the Nil recurring tracks actually in the track lengths, and then the fourth side
not all of.
Yeah,
I'll have to recheck my copy because I can't remember if I've got that.
But yeah, they are very good, Travis, and if they weren't, it just should be a part of your collection for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm intrigued to hear what Nathan's favorite Porcupine Tree triple run is.
Yeah, I debated between this and I would probably start with Lightbulb Sun, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then have In Absentia and Deadwing.
That's fair. Absolutely valid.
Yeah, I love that run of albums, and I love Fear of a Blank Planet too. But like picking your favorite child, it's like
that's it with Porcupine Tree, isn't it?
I'd even say The Incident. Like,
there's
a lot of people who didn't really care for it, but I love that record.
Yeah,
I need to get around to doing a ranking. I know that our currently absent fifth. How many people have we got on here? I can't count.
It's 5.
Sixth person who we should have been waiting for, and hopefully will be joining us later on. I know they've done a on Matt O'Leary's channel. They did a Porcupine Tree ranking recently, which is a really, really good video if you haven't checked it out. So if you haven't seen it, go look at it. And it's making me want to do that. That's a similar sort of thing for myself as well, just because they're such an interesting band that nobody's got the same opinions about them. And I absolutely love that about Porcupine Tree because there is no wrong answer. your favorite Porcupine Tree record is one. I mean, this is argumentatively the same across any band, whatever. But if somebody tells me that Saint Anger's better than Master of Puppets, I'm going to throw them in the sea. But with Porcupine Tree, it really does feel like every choice is incredibly valid and entirely justifiable for what your favorite one is, which makes it so hard to actually rank the albums.
Yeah, I agree. Right,
You okay down there, Mike?
You've frozen on quite a seductive face. They'll be back with us soon, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Well, Travis, what are your next picks?
Well, going with what Ian just said, I have to go with Metallica's Load Reload Saint Anger. No. I'm gonna go with
do that to me.
I'm gonna go with a more classic progressive rock pick, and one that I think it's gonna be kind of like the Yes thing, where there's gonna be a lot of disagreement. I'm gonna go with Rush.
Ooh.
Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, Signals.
Wow, cool.
Okay.
I know that like the prog fan in all of us is probably thinking,
Came in at the wrong
why didn't you
time."
say 2112 to Hemispheres? And those are also, that's another perfect 3-album run. Rush has multiple 3 perfect album
They
runs
do.
as far as
They
I'm
really
concerned.
Funny you say,
I mean,
Travis.
I'm representing Canada here, and if you're Canadian, even if you don't know who Rush are, you've heard a song from each of these 3 albums. You're not Canadian if you've never heard Spirit of Radio, Tom Sawyer, or Subdivisions.
Mm-hmm.
And Signals, I mean, that's maybe a debatable one, but
Nope.
It has their only American hit. New World Man was the only song of theirs to chart in the US. As far as I know, they might have charted like with Clockwork Angels or something.
I think you're right.
But yeah, like those 3 albums are such a vibe. And I think that they're very good like transition records, because before Permanent Waves, like they were either a straight up Led Zeppelin ripoff or like the proggiest of prog. And then after Signals, they were just like a Police cover band. But with these 3 albums, I think they really mixed the progressiveness of the albums before them with the sort of synthy new wave tendencies that they were going to more heavily lean into from Grace Under Pressure onward, and did it in a very synergistic and unique way. These albums are so uniquely Rush. No other band could have made any of these 3 records. And all 3 of them are albums that, for me personally, like, they're the first 3 albums of Rush I've heard in their entirety in my life, and they're always going to have just like a special place in my heart. And they're the 3 albums of theirs that no matter what mood I'm in, no matter what state of mind I'm in, I could put any of those 3 records on, let it play, and just be happy. And also personally as a musician, they're 3 of the only records that like I could put on, grab a guitar, and play the songs the whole way through the whole record, just because I've spent so much time learning to play the songs on all 3 of these records. So, you know, I learned basically everything I know about music theory and guitar playing by just copying whatever Alex Lifeson did on those 3 records. They're brilliant.
I think my run, I was really tempted to start with 2112, like you say. I'm going to controversial hot take. 2112 is a great song with some added extras on top of it. You know,
you are correct. You are correct.
You know, let's be honest. When you think about 2112, right, you think about the song. You don't think about things like Tears, do you? You're not thinking about that. You know, nobody
I like
thinks,
that song.
It's a great song, but nobody thinks, oh, what a banger. You know, everyone's thinking about the title track, which is totally legit as far as I'm concerned. So for me personally, it starts with Farewell to Kings for me. Then we go to Hemispheres and then into Permanent Waves. I wanted, obviously, to include Moving Pictures, but there he is. Yeah,
that's my 3. That's my 3. I'm putting them aside, but those are my 3.
Hell yeah. It's such a perfect run for me. It's just unbelievable. Just Rush, just at the height of what I wanted most from them. Now, obviously, I love Moving Pictures, like every single song on Moving Pictures is incredible. But if I'm including Moving Pictures, then I'm not including some of the other ones I want to include, and
That's it.
I had to like smooth it slightly. The whole Farewell to Kings onwards sort of thing. You know?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's like out of the two, like I love both of those albums, and it's Sophie's choice, right? Like I can't. It's so hard, but like I would rather listen to Farewell to Kings than Moving Pictures. That's just my own personal opinion. And that's why my 3 albums from them starts with Farewell to Kings, Hemisphere, which is my favorite, and then Permanent Waves, which again, you can't go wrong. It's a perfect album. So
Yeah.
That was my choice too, Travis, and I almost grabbed them today, but I'm glad I didn't.
A lot of love for Rush. Love it.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I think it's Nathan's turn.
I think it's Nathan's turn. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I have to mention my favorite artist at some point here, and it's gonna be Neil Morse. And it was hard to pick between like a Transatlantic run or Spock's Beard run, but I kind of wanted to go with his just solo albums, and I think
okay. I've got this lined up as well. I want to see if mine matches yours. Where's mine?
Yeah, same.
Okay.
I think it's One, Question Mark, and Sola Scriptura.
Yes, yes it is.
Same.
Yes it is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, to me that's his best 3 album run. Just 3
100%.
incredible concept albums that are just like the peak of his abilities as a songwriter and musician, and just those are 3 of my all-time favorite albums. So right in a row.
Agree more. Absolutely peak Morse and Sola Scriptura. If Between the Buried and Me's Colors is my number 1 pick, Sola Scriptura is 2 or 3. It's the fight between Blackwater Park and Sola Scriptura basically. So, and you know, it's kind of like that, but just literally perfect. I can't fault that record. It got me through so much like crap when I was at uni. Like I was having a really, really bad time in my final year because of the amount of stress that I was under. And that Sola Scriptura just got me through so much of it. You know, I just whacked that on, the door comes on, and I was like, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, ba-ba-da. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. It's Neil. Neil with the healing. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, such a great pick.
I have to admit, I'm not as up on Neil's Christian solo albums as I should be. Sola is pretty much Scriptura, Sola Scriptura, not Sola Gratia.
Yeah.
That's about the only one I've really spent any time with. I should really probably check out Question Mark and One.
Testimony 1 and 2 are both
Testimony.
excellent. Yeah, both Testimony albums are amazing.
Yeah,
I have a hard time with One. Testimony.
Really?
Yeah, I find it hard to get into. 2 is easy.
Fair.
Yeah, it's a little rough. It's a little rough around the edges, but I think that just has a little bit of a charm to it.
Testimony 2 is the one with Seeds of Gold on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. That sounds right.
Seeds of Gold is like my favorite Neil
bonus,
epic
yes.
ever. It's so good. I love it so much. It's just outstanding.
Yeah, the first Testimony album has kind of a special place in my heart because I got into Spock's Beard like right when they broke up, right when Neil left.
Oh no!
Like the first thing I was anticipating was Testimony, and it was like okay, Neil's still gonna do prog music. I can be okay with that. I can still follow it, even though he's not in Spock's Beard. So
yeah, that's great.
Mike, you're next.
Is my go? Okay. So I'm going to get into one of my favorite bands of all time. It's an artist, and I'm very excited because he is putting out another album this year. So I'm super duper excited for that. And this was hard because much like all the groups that we've talked about, it was like, where do I start and where do I end? Because if it was a 4-album run, I would have no problem. It would be so easy for a 4-album run. But because it's a 3-album run, I'm like, well, where do I start and where do I end? So I am doing Fido. One of my all-time favorites. And so I have to start then with Doomsday Afternoon.
Yes.
Goes into number 7.
Yeah.
And then finishes with Snow Torch. If I was allowed one more, I would go into Infernal. But I'm going to put that back down. These 3 records show what modern prog can do. and it's just a perfect run of albums. Like each album is a masterpiece, like a perfect album after a perfect album after a perfect album. And
Afternoon
like
changed
the
my
fact
life.
that most of these,
Uh-oh.
absolutely, yeah, Duke Afternoon,
Wow.
I music could do music from Fido, and I feel as though my internet is cutting out, so I will give the floor to everybody else.
Oh no. I'm definitely agreeing with Mike though on his choice on their choices there. Doomsday Afternoon is just in and of itself one of the most brilliant records ever made. It came to me at a time where, again, I didn't know what to expect from it. It was just a case of somebody said, you should really check this out if you're into sort of the modern prog scene. And it was my first exposure to Fido, Dido, whatever you want to call them, I don't know. And we'll go with Fido because I've always called him Fido. And I didn't know what to expect. You know, I had no concept as to what was about to happen. I thought the album art was really neat, kind of spooky, creepy looking. I thought, okay, that's kind of cute. We can deal with that. And what I love the most about their music is that it sounds so distinctly them. You know, it's got sort of like some old school progressive rock sensibilities about it, sure, but it doesn't crutch or lean heavily on anything that came from the past, like so many sort of modern neo-prog bands often are so guilty of. You can say like, oh, this neo-prog band sounds like Yes, or it sounds like Marillion, or it sounds like Genesis, or Jethro Tull, or Rush, or whatever. Fido always manages to sound exactly like himself and like nothing else, and for that reason alone, I think they are worth listening to.
Yeah, this was high on my list too of three choices. So I saw Fido live in a club in LA once, and like, let me listen to Snow Torch early, and I reviewed it on my blog at the time, and so he's always just been a special artist for me. So I think this is just an incredible run of albums for sure.
Here, let me just write this down. Listen to Fido.
Yeah, it's be sure that you spell it properly though, because it's Phideaux.
Yeah, it's like how Frank Zappa said it like once.
Yeah.
Did you interview him once, Mike?
I did, yeah.
That's cool.
And I got to listen to pretty much every album after number 7 early.
Nice.
And he's like one of the most personable and friendly guys I've ever had the opportunity to interview. Like just super down to earth, and just loves music, right? So
awesome.
Yeah, super great. He was also one of the only ones that actually reached out to me, as opposed to me knocking on doors.
That's really
That's neat.
Yeah, it was very, very good. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to piss people off.
Oh, go on, then. Let's get some controversy going on. Let's go.
Let him cook.
Oh, okay. Let's go with this.
Start with 6 degrees. Kind of thought in the last Octavarium.
Amazing. I love this so
nicest
much.
run in their catalog.
I support
okay. Who's gonna
support
shit first?
you? I elevate you.
Okay. So I already brought this up in the chat. Dream Theater is it's one of my favorite bands. Don't get me wrong. But I believe they do not have a perfect 3-album run. Every chance they had to have a 3-album run that's perfect gets broken up by something that is a little iffy for me. Like Scratch, Dream Day, Images and Words Awake, masterpieces. Falling into Infinity,
I will fight you. I will fight you on the
features. I love the record. I love Falling into Infinity. A lot of people don't. Scenes, perfect.
Yeah.
6 Degrees, more perfect, but that's controversial. And then you've got Train of Thought, which is, I like that album, but it's a real one-note record, and I've got to be in the right mood for it. Like, if I'm not in the mood for Dream Theater copying Metallica, it's not for me. And then this is probably my hottest Dream Theater take, Octavarium. Perfect title track. I'll be like, I want that played at my goddamn funeral. But the album has the highest selection of Dream Theater songs I hate.
Wow.
Okay. Like These Walls, I Walk Beside You, and Never Enough.
Oh, I love Never Enough. It's the best Muse song they never wrote.
If you nuked those 3 songs out of existence, I would not shed a tear.
I mean, ditto for me, but Systematic Chaos can get things like Forsaken, The Dark Eternal Night, and Prophets of War into the sea, quite frankly.
Exactly.
I like Systematic Chaos. I don't know if I'd consider it part of any 3-album perfection run, though.
And it's too late in the discography.
Everything after that is just... Everything after that's a write-off.
Yeah, it's fine.
So
I agree.
You say that, but I will defend A Dramatic Turn of Events until my dying breath, because I freaking love that record.
The Astonishing
so
is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard, but
but I mean, Dream Theater having a 3-album run, I don't know. Like I love the track Octavarium, but I would struggle to put the album in a 3-album perfect run. I probably would do more like yours, Brent, and start with Scenes, then 6 Degrees, and then I would like begrudgingly put Train of Thought in there. Like I'd be I like Train of Thought. If I'm in the mood, it's perfect.
Honestly, I will happily go Images and Words Awake and Falling into Infinity without missing or even hesitating, because I unironically love Falling into Infinity. I think it contains some of the most underrated works that the band has ever put out. Trial of Tears and Lines in the Sand alone are worth it, just for those tunes. They're so incredible.
You're correct. You're right.
I am correct. You're right. You're right. Thank you.
I don't know if I'd put it up there like as a masterpiece. I'd say it's like an underrated. It's the underdog of Dream Theater records. But
I have to say, I do agree with you that for me personally, I can't quite justify a 3 perfect album run for me, because like much with yourself, when I start with one, then I get to the second, we're still good, but then I get to whatever's third in the queue, and I'm not quite on board with it. Like, if I was to start with Scenes and then go 6 Degrees and then Train of Thought, much like yourself, I do feel that's Train of Thought. It's good at what it does, but it doesn't do anything other than, like, one flavor. It's like, I love Nutella on toast, right? But I don't want 7 slices of it in a row, you know? I'll have a little bit of Nutella on toast, you know? Because otherwise I'll be sick everywhere. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah. I don't know. I applaud Brent's choices. I
very
agree
brave.
I agree that it's your at least for mine. I'm very close. Mine would start with Train of Thought, go into Octavarium, and then go into Systematic Chaos, because Systematic Chaos was the first new record from them that I got to experience, and I loved it, and I still love it so much. So, and I love that one note of Train of Thought. You know, I can eat that all day, every day, and not get bored or sick of it. You know, I will just eat Nutella from the jar. You know, I don't even need the toast. So, yeah, I will go to bat, and like much like Ian, how you'll go to bat for Falling into Infinity, I'll go to bat for Train of Thought. I think it's one of their best albums. But that's just me. I know I'm the odd one out.
We probably all have a different 3 albums, I think, because mine would probably be Falling into Infinity, Scenes, 6 Degrees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are all very respectable takes on Dream Theater debate.
Yeah,
I like that this is the one that's kind of like the most. There's a good spread.
Yeah. But we're all overlapping each other, so that's all great.
There are bits where we all agree, and bits where we
all agree 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence
that's good enough.
Perfect. And it's my favorite album of theirs, so I'm happy with that.
Oh boy.
Very big fan of 6 Degrees. It often gets overlooked, but it's just objectively
brilliant.
Incredible record, and I will take no debate on this, quite frankly. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh boy, are we back to the beginning again?
Yeah, Ian, let's do this.
Pressure. Do I go for a really obvious one, or let somebody else take an obvious one, or do I go a bit more me?
You gotta do you.
Sod it. We're gonna go me. It's gotta be me. Like the song, it's got to be me. It's gonna be me. We're gonna go back to the 70s, and we are gonna go with Elton John, everyone's favorite singer-songwriter. We're gonna go Elton John. And for me, like anybody who doesn't really know much about myself, Elton John is my favorite, like individual named artist of all time. I will take like the rain check on that. His 80s stuff was a bit mid. Like, Jesus, I don't know what happened. It was all the, the cocaine and everything. It did things to his brain and turned him into a bit of a wishy-washy whatever. But that being said, his 70s work is absolute untouchable, and it was so difficult for me to decide what 3-album run I went for, and I was so annoyed about the album that preceded Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, because that kind of meant I couldn't really include it, because you go past Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and again you get into that sort of like, it's not quite 3 enough in a row situation. So I've had to go for Tumbleweed Connection, Madman Across the Water, and Honky Chateau in that order, just because that 3 is just bulletproof.
Yeah,
I especially love Tumbleweed Connection. It's such an underrated record of his. It's this ridiculously un-Elton John record. Like, think of everything you associate with Elton John, the flamboyancy, the big clothes, the pizzazz, and it's none of that. It's this stripped down sort of like journey through backwater America with all this sort of like almost country and western feel to it, and it's so beautiful with so many incredible songs which just don't get anywhere near the attention they deserve. Like, there were no big hits on this album, no huge singles or anything like that, you know, and it's coming off the back of his incredibly successful sophomore self-titled album, which everybody and their mum actually owned. But rather than sort of like leaning into that success and going more into that sort of like accessible singer-songwriter pop direction, Elton and Bernie sort of went into this kind of almost like a voyage of self-discovery through the backwater of America, like I say, and just coming up with this incredibly personal, beautiful album, which never really gets talked about much, and I think deserves so much love. And then, of course, you go into things like Madman Across the Water, where you got the huge things like Tiny Dancer and stuff like that on it, which incidentally is the only Elton John record I still don't have on vinyl, which I'm after because it's bloody expensive for some reason. Everywhere you look, it really annoys me. And then leading into Honky Chateau, which is one of my favorite records of all time, including obviously things, you know, like, you know, freaking Rocket Man, of course, and stuff like that. But it's also got some incredibly good deep cuts, including the obviously the opening track leading into such wonderful things as I Think I'm Going to Kill Myself, which is a deeply cynical, obviously, take on teenage suicide and the media reporting coverage of it. And it's done in such a jovial fashion and such an upbeat kind of style that it's so like, what am I even listening to? But then you listen to the lyrics, like, oh my God, what is, and then you think that's the point. You know, it's grabbing your attention and showing you that music and lyrics don't necessarily have this cognitive dissonance between them. And
it seems like a very timely song for today too.
Yeah, it's aged quite well in that respect, insofar as that it's almost become relevant to modern discourse again, even like 50 years after it came out. And I just think it's such a brilliant record. And that run, for me, it's like a lot of people, like if you ask them Elton John, they will just quote whatever
Goodbye
singles.
Yellow Brick Road.
Exactly. They'll quote whatever singles like they want to think about.
Unfortunately, I'm one of those, like, I'm a greatest hits generation kind of thing.
Well, Travis, I've just given you an exceptional 3-album run for which to explore and expand your Elton John knowledge with. You're welcome.
I mean, I love your, I mean, I'm much like you were saying with one of our past lists where I'm the basic bitch. Like, for me, it's Yellow Brick Road, Caribou, and Captain Fantastic.
Absolutely legit. Yeah.
That's my 3. I mean, I love all the songs from each of those albums. I wish that Philadelphia Freedom was on Captain Fantastic, as it should have been, instead of just being a single. But that's my 3-album run.
Caribou was the thing which stopped that from that being my perfect run, because Caribou is one of the weaker ones in his earlier parts for me. I still love Caribou, don't get me wrong, but the strength of that 3-album run compared to Tumbleweed through to Honky Chateau for me is just a bit stronger. So, but it's still an entirely legitimate pick, because I will say that Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy are his best 2 records, like hands down. They're just superb.
Yeah, and I guess like Caribou still has like The Bitch's Back and
which is
Sun Crown. Like, there are still some real bangers on that one.
Definitely there are. Definitely.
I can also see the past ones having just a little bit more stay power.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fair.
So that's the most me entry I want. I had to get in there. I had to talk about Elton.
Absolutely.
My heart belongs forever to him.
Yeah.
It's my turn. Do I go for a me pick or do I go for a discussion pick? You know, I'm going to copy you, Ian, here. I'm going to go for a me pick now. Get this one out of the way, and then we can go for the big discussion one next. Pain of Salvation.
Okay.
1 Hour by the Concrete Lake, The Perfect Element Part 1, and Remedy Lane.
Yeah.
Just like some of the other ones,
Correct.
I could extend this one and say like we'll make it a 5 album run with Entropia and B. But I think if you go to like any Pain of Salvation like fan group and say what are the 3 best albums they have, they will almost nearly universally say Hour by the Concrete Lake, Perfect Element, Remedy Lane.
Yeah.
And those 3 albums are just brilliant. I mean, 3 very different concept albums that kind of cover very similar ground, but in different ways, like very humanistic kind of concepts. Some a little bit more political, some a little bit more personal. Yeah, I mean, I've always just been a really big fan of Pain of Salvation. They do a really great mix of what's good about modern progressive metal, but while still keeping a very like old school kind of mentality with prog. And yeah.
I can't believe you didn't choose Scarsick, Road Salt 1, 2. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I love those albums. Don't knock those albums.
I like those albums.
They are great. They are great. I mean,
and
they're still good.
The last two,
the last two Light of Day is
really
amazing. I love In the Passing Light of Day. It's so good. Absolutely.
And Panther kind of hits me personally, like talking about like neurodivergency and stuff like that. So, you know, hopefully their next album is brilliant and can make their most, you know, have another 3-album perfect run.
I mean,
that would be great.
I'm a Perfect Element, Remedy Lane, and B guy myself. I love B just because of how pretentious it is. It's so
B
pretentious.
Is the most, it's the most pretentious record ever made. I mean, he literally describes, like Daniel Gilmour literally describes the album as like his attempt to create his own creation myth. It doesn't get any more pretentious than that. But at the same time, it's like this hugely existential Broadway musical kind of thing. So and the live version is better. I mean, I've
150 million thousand people.
I've used the live DVD as like sort of a friendship litmus test. Like, if you can sit through this and if you enjoy it, you're my kind of people.
Oh yeah. I will say though as well, Pain of Salvation for me, right? They did the best cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah ever put to anything.
They made it sexy again.
They did. They so did. Yeah. I'm so angry it's not on any studio recording, but that big high note that Gilmour hits towards the end, just spine chilling every single time I hear it. I love it so much. And every time people talk about covers of this song, I'm like, excuse me, Pain of Salvation, hi. You know.
Speaking of Pain of Salvation and covers, like their cover of Scorpions' Yellow Raven on the Linoleum EP is so underrated. If you had told me that wasn't a Scorpions cover, that was one of their own songs, I'd believe it. If you'd told me that song was the same band that wrote like Rock You Like a Hurricane, I'd be like, what are you on?
Like a hurricane. Yeah. Oh boy. That's great.
All right.
Nathan, I think you're up.
Okay, so my turn. Yeah, maybe this is a pick I think could be controversial, maybe, but probably
we like controversy here.
Not too bad. I wanted to mention Haken.
I was debating during these, so I'm glad someone's doing them.
I have opinions already.
I think we're gonna have different iterations because they all have the run is all pretty good. So, but I would probably start with Visions and go into the mountain.
Okay.
I think. You know, I used to probably start with Aquarius and just say their first 3 albums, but I've really fallen in love with Affinity, and I think it's really underrated. It's a perfect album from them. It's like perfect blend of that 80s style, but with their, you know, progressive metal quirkiness, and it just really hits for me. So that's, to me, the perfect run.
I don't know if I like Visions enough to consider it like it's a good album. I like their first 2 albums. I just don't have enough like headphone time with them. I haven't spent enough time listening to those first 2 records to really like dig in and go, yeah, I'll put that in my favorites. I really need to go back though, because like Visions
I
and
started my
Aquarius.
Haken journey with Aquarius, thank you very much. So all we had back then was Aquarius, and then
I
all
was
we
gonna say-
had was Aquarius and Visions
Yeah.
after that. So I listened
Yeah,
to
I
those
was
a
gonna say,
lot.
well, actually, my first was Enter the Fifth Dimension. So that's
have a
all.
I have a
Oh,
copy of that around here somewhere.
No,
Got
I'm
like
just
a-
playing with you guys. Yeah.
but yeah, like I mean, I think if I really spend some time with Visions, I'm probably going to agree with you because there's no way I could leave Affinity out of a 3-album perfect
That's
run of
fair.
Haken. It's such a good record. It's probably one of my favorite modern prog records of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm an Aquarius
Yeah.
through to the mountain kind of guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Same.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I
It's
would-
my favorite.
Yeah. If pressed, I would also include Restoration in that because
Yes.
Okay.
I love Restoration so much.
Crystallized my heart.
Ah,
I'm
it's
not-
just so good.
hot take. Okay. I
Okay.
prefer Snow to Crystallized from the demo. I prefer Snow,
You
but I
know-
want it to be
Okay.
mastered better. But I
I'm-
genuinely feel it's a better song.
I'm with you, but I still love the epic that Crystallize
Oh,
is,
yeah.
like the
No,
journey.
absolutely. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would agree that I think Snow has been kind of lost to time undeservedly.
Let
Yeah.
me listen
I-
to Snow again and I'll get
Yeah.
back to you.
I think
Yeah.
Enter the Fifth Dimension is one of the best demo albums from a prog band, like possibly ever, because I think other than the production, which is, it's bedroom, but whatever, you
Yeah.
can't expect miracles from bedroom production. It's fine. And this was obviously back in like 2007 or 8 or whatever it was. I can't remember when they
Yeah.
released it. It was a long, long time ago. But the songwriting on that is
Mhm.
stellar. You cannot fault the songwriting on everything on Enter the Fifth Dimension. And honestly, I want a Restoration Part 2 where we get the
Mhm.
rest of Enter the Fifth Dimension brought into the modern age and remastered and re-envisioned and all that sort of jazz. And then like just release the two of them as a single LP, that'd be amazing for me. I think that'd be
Well,
so
now
cool.
that they've
I would
got
see that.
now that they've got Peter Jones back, I mean,
Yeah.
True.
who knows?
That'd be really cool.
I
Yeah.
would die happy. I'll be like, yes, thank you,
Oh,
Nathan,
boy.
for bringing up Haken, because now I don't have to.
Yeah.
That's true.
Same.
I'm so
I can put
glad
this-
somebody did.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Mr. Bullet.
So I guess it's my turn.
Your turn.
I've been debating which one to go for next, but a lot of people have been doing do I go me or do I go, more in the traditional prog vein? So I'm gonna go for me. And I have a feeling I'll be talking by myself for this one. Because it is Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I knew it.
It is my girl Taylor Swift. Because I still believe she has a perfect 3-album run. And it starts with Red and then goes to 1989 and then goes to maybe my favorite record from her, which is Reputation. So I've got the three here. Starting with Red, going into 1989, and then Reputation. I like each one has their own very, very distinct feeling and has their own distinct sound, and in some ways its own distinct genre as well. Like Red is really a pop country album. Like it's her first foray more into the pop scene. She was dabbling with it a little bit within Fearless and Speak Now, but this is her going much more into the pop scene. 1989 is her claiming as a pop artist, much more doing the accessible, very poppy stuff. And Reputation is a very experimental pop album, and I feel as though most people aren't as much of a fan of Reputation, but I think it's her most consistent record. And it's really a concept album. It's her dealing with her fame and how that distorts people's perceptions of her, how a reputation precedes somebody in a very negative light. So I think these three are her best run. She has made great music before and after, but I think this is the most consistent she's been. Like tracks on Lover are great, but there's a lot to it. I love the Folklore, the Evermore, and the Midnight run that she did, but my heart will always be in these three records. So
Folklore
I
is
had
really,
to. I had to at least.
yeah. Folklore is really the only one of hers I've paid much attention to, just because I really liked a couple of the tracks on it, but I'm not really like a big indie cottagecore kind of person.
And that's fair.
But
Yeah.
hey, to each their own. I think which album was it that had "We're Never Ever Getting Together" or whatever that whatever it was
Oh,
called.
yeah, was that Red? It was either, I think it's Red.
All I
Either Red or
know,
1989. Let me double
all
check.
I know is one of my first or my
Yeah, it's
last
Red.
fast food job. I had to listen to that song like 5 times a shift, and it turned me off of
Nobody should ever have
that
to listen
style.
to one song that many times, no matter how good of a song it is, you know.
Yeah, it's true. That will take the taste out of any song.
I must admit, I am extremely unfamiliar, shall we say, with Taylor Swift outside of the big radio hits and stuff like that. But your passion for Taylor Swift and how enthusiastic you are about her really does make me want to check this out, go into the deeper cuts, etc., and see, you know, have I been missing something here? You know, because I mean, for all I know, she's basically like this generation's Elton John, effectively, like how he is to me. And if I'm missing out on that, then I feel like maybe I should start course correcting and see what I've actually been, you know, what's out there waiting for me, sort of thing.
I'll admit, your love of Taylor Swift has kind of inspired me to like check out a few different pop artists like that are out nowadays and see if there's one that really speaks to me. And it did lead me to check out Aurora.
Oh,
And
she's
I
Aurora.
really enjoy her work. So
Yeah.
I consider that like that's my Michael's Taylor Swift.
Well, same with me and Wise Blood too.
Oh, I
Wise
love
Blood,
Wise
yes.
Blood.
Yeah.
You made me check out Wise Blood after
Yeah.
Hearts Aglow, and I was, oh god, I love that
Thank you
record so
very
much.
much. It's a
So
great
good.
album.
Yeah, and since Wise Blood, I've gone through and I've fallen in love with so many other bands. Like one that I've loved very, very recently, and they're an Ur band. Let's see if I can find them because I don't want to butcher the name. I want to say it's like Magdalena Bay. Is it's so good. I will get that right now because I've been loving. Yeah, Magdalena Bay. Their album from, let's see here, from 2001, A Mercutial World, is brilliant and outstanding. I've been listening to that over and over and over again this past week.
Wow.
Into it.
Yeah,
So-
that is a good one. I've heard that too.
Yeah. So anyway, that's mine.
All right, Brent.
All right, I'm going to go for a personal one now.
Yeah.
Who knows what the Berlin Trilogy is about or has heard of that term?
I mean, I've heard of the term, and I think it's David Bowie.
Yes.
There we go.
Shoot, yeah. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the
Sorry.
record you're on about.
The story is David Bowie and Iggy Pop left the America and went over to Berlin to kind of clean up because they were both just major addicts, and Bowie recorded what was going to become known as the Berlin Trilogy. And it starts with Low,
Yeah.
Heroes.
and then Lodger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I urge you to check all 3 of those out. They kind of
I actually do have my own Bowie on my own spreadsheet.
very cold, but very electronic. You can hear a lot of 80s influence in it. And yeah, they're a good time.
And I mean, Heroes, Robert Fripp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Adrian Belew gets on Lodger.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
Plays
cool.
on Lodger, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. My introduction to Heroes was with the Wallflowers on the Godzilla soundtrack.
I think a lot of us
Amazing.
can claim that from our generation.
So I didn't realize that wasn't a Wallflowers song until like ridiculously later on. I was like, "What do you mean? This is a Wallflowers song. It was on the Godzilla soundtrack."
It's a funny story. I was working with a guy and we were listening to Nirvana's version of The Man Who Sold the World. So I popped in the CD and played a Bowie's version. You should have seen the look on his face, like he completely melted. Oh, I thought that was a Nirvana song. I'm like, no.
Not quite.
It's all right. Some people think Behind Blue Eyes is a Limp Bizkit song, so
Yeah,
Oh.
same thing.
That's true. Yeah.
God help us. My own Bowie is I had to have Bowie on there because Bowie is one of my favorite artists. Again, he's not quite Elton John, but he's very, very close behind. And my own Bowie story is a bit more classic, a bit more predictable. It's Hunky Dory, Ziggy Stardust, Alan Insane. You know,
I can't go wrong with those either.
Yeah. Hunky Dory is my favorite Bowie record of all time. I love it forever and ever. And the second I hear Changes start, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Yes, come on, Bowie, let's go. You know,
Great.
I love it. It's so good.
So good. Oh boy.
Well,
Are we
Ian,
back at the beginning?
We're back at Ian.
We got one more cycle, do you reckon, or
Yeah, I think we got one
One
more.
or two. I'm good
one or
until
two, yeah.
yeah.
I'm still good for a bit. Yeah.
I'm good to go for a bit longer.
Yeah.
I got
Okay,
the stamina. We can do this.
Hell yeah. Right. I am thinking, do I go predictable and debatable, or no? I went personal last time. Let's go a bit more. Nobody's picked this one yet, so
Let's see
and
if
I
you.
have, might as well be little old me picking this one. Let's go back to the United Kingdom. Let's go
Oh.
for a classic. Let's go for not Genesis. Ah, beat it.
Oh.
We're not doing Genesis. No, well, I'm not doing Genesis. We are going to go. We're going to go Pink Floyd. We're going to go Pink Floyd today.
Ooh.
Okay.
Now,
It's
again,
gonna be
Pink Floyd.
interesting.
Pink Floyd is always a fun one because, again, much like a lot of these artists with extensive catalogs and such forth, and very distinct eras. You know, you got the whole like Roger Waters becoming insane and leaving, and being insane to this day. But
I bet yours is
everybody's
going to be this. I bet I'm going to guess what yours is again.
okay. No,
Let's see.
I want Travis to say it. Now I will be legit. I will not pretend if you are correct or not, but I want you to say the 3-album run, and I want to see if you're going to get mine correct. What's it going to be? Come on, lay it on
Dark
me.
Side of the Moon. Wish You Were Here, Animals.
Got it in one.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's what I was
Nice.
going to say as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so perfect. It is so ridiculously perfect to me. Like,
Yeah.
for me personally, like, I cannot think of many bands whose 3 album run like that is as strong as that, is as well regarded within the status quo as that. You can say these albums to people anywhere and they will know these records. They may not necessarily know the name of the album, but if you show them a picture of it, they'll damn sure know what it is. And especially Animals, I think, is one of the, I don't even want to say underrated albums of Pink Floyd, because it's not underrated, but people don't include it in the conversation when they talk about Pink Floyd. People will talk about Dark Side of the Moon until the cows come home. They will talk about Wish You Were Here until people's ears start falling off. And then The Wall is obviously thrown around with second. I mean, that's the big one, that and Dark Side of the Moon. But people don't tend to talk about Animals as much. And I think it is a crying shame that people don't include that in the conversation when it comes to the classic era of Pink Floyd. Because for me, it is objectively, in some ways, better than pretty much everything that came before it. I mean, me personally, my favorite Pink Floyd album is Metal, mostly on the strength of Echoes. I'm not going to try and pretend otherwise. But I do feel that, you know, what came after Metal wasn't as strong as what's in this 3-album run. But Animals is easily my second favorite Pink Floyd album, probably tied in some ways then equally with Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. And just I can't speak highly enough of this run. It's so ridiculous. And if ever there was a band at the height of their powers on full display, it was that sort of sequence of records from Pink Floyd.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, you're correct. You know, my 3 favorite. You know, if I had to put down my favorite, would start with Atom Heart Mother, go into Metal, and then go into Obscured by Clouds. But I also understand that there's a lot of blemishes on those records. There's a lot of bruising, and they put down ideas that would get perfected in later albums. So I totally get that. But yeah, those are my 3 favorite ones. Even though I will sit down and listen to Wish You Were Here and Animals so much more than Metal and Obscured by Clouds.
I mean, for me, depending on the day, it's either Dark Side to Animals or Wish You Were Here to the Wall, depending on the day. Like, sometimes I'm actually like, oh, The Wall is actually a lot better than I remember it. And sometimes it's like, I really don't want to listen to disc 2 of this. Like, this is really like other, yeah.
If The Wall was a more succinct, more streamlined single album, I think I would include it in my 3-album run. But I just think there's too much filler. You know, there's too much stuff,
especially in
just
the second
bloated.
half.
It just gets a bit bloated by the time the record's finished. I mean, I theatrical and over the top and blah 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 whatever. But I get that's the point. But I just don't know. It felt like it's a beautiful cake, but she's just been a little bit over decorated, you know.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, so I guess if there's no other discussion, we're going on to me, and I think I'm going to do like Ian, and I'm going to go for something maybe a little more predictable. Yeah, let's go with Mastodon,
Ooh, okay.
Oh,
Leviathan, Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky.
Correct.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, yeah, it's another case of you could extend it to include Remission if you're really into more of the sludge metal kind of stuff, or you could I always forget what comes after Crack the Sky. It's
The
the Hunter,
Hunter.
right?
The
The
Hunter.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people
Yeah.
really like the Hunter, but I think, you got these 3 records, Leviathan, Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky, and they're all just peak Mastodon.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like Leviathan was my introduction to Mastodon,
Same.
and I just remember hearing that album for the first time. Like, I've got my headphones on and I'm just like, yeah. Especially by the time Hearts Alive comes on, like, I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah.
And and then Blood Mountain comes out, and it's a lot cleaner. It's not quite as gruff and sludgy, but it's still heavy, and it's like you still got those really good progressive moments. And then Crack the Sky, like, all bets are off. Like, it's a psychedelic metal masterpiece. Like, just, it's perfection. So
I can't disagree with that sequence. I really can't disagree with
that. I can't either. That's the correct one.
I mean, every Mastodon album is good to great.
Oh yeah.
But it's just that 3-album run.
I mean, Hunter and Once More Around the Sun were a little touch and go for me, but I think they started bringing it back with Emperor's Sand and Hushed and Grim, which came out like a couple of years ago. It's just wash. I love it.
It's another A+ album.
I love it. Incredible.
Yeah.
I would honestly put Hushed and Grim up there with the likes of Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky, and all that sort of thing. So, like, if that earlier in their discography, we'd be looking at a perfect 4-album run, because I just love it so much. And that ending on Gigantium, I will cite Gigantium as one of the best songs they've ever made. It is so incredible. My love, so strong. It's so good. I
have to admit, I've got to give Hush and Grim another chance, because I had to review that one for Ultimate Guitar, and I remember it being such a slog to get through because it's so long.
It is long.
It's very long.
Yeah, it's their only double album.
The payoff is so good, and Gigantium really just
but now that I don't have to listen to it for work purposes,
there you go.
Who knows? Maybe I'll find myself enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, I love that they carried the feelings and like the essence of Cold Dark Places, which is my favorite Mastodon project. Even if it's not my favorite album from them, because it's an EP, it's my favorite project from them.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't like the Jonah Hex EP?
So Nathan, what are your
moving on very quickly?
Okay, I think I'll go for the obvious one because I think it should be in the conversation here. I will go for Genesis. And
we knew somebody had to.
It was a hard decision because I think anything from like Nursery Crime to Wind and Wuthering could be in the conversation. But my snapshot would probably be Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound, and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Yep.
Agreed. That was easy.
I mean, for me, it's just so hard because out of the two, I think I would rather have Selling England, Lamb, and Trick of the Tail. Just because I prefer Trick of the Tail over Nursery Crimes, but that's just me. Yours,
no, it's me too.
Perfect. Sorry, I keep saying Nursery Crimes. Foxtrot. Before somebody rips off my head. Like I couldn't because Selling England is my favorite album of all time. Full stop. Period. But I almost want to go Lamb, Trick of the Tail, and Wind and Wuthering. But I mean, anything from. I know, right? But anything from basically Trespass, all the way. I would even include Duke. Anything from that stretch is the correct answer.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's 100% the same as Nathan. It goes Foxtrot through to Lamb Lies Down. But for me, it's like Foxtrot contains the best Genesis song of all time. Supper's Ready is objectively perfect. It's incredible. and I will still cite a flower to my friends at every single possible opportunity that it presents itself, because you got to have in jokes and all that sort of thing. But Selling England is the perfect Genesis album. It's just ridiculous how good it is. There is not a single second on that album wasted. It's perfect. It's absolutely wonderful. And for me to not include that in my 3 would be folly. I mean, I could start with it, and move upwards from that, or end with it maybe, but I'm not as into Nursery Crime or Trespass as the others from the classic era. Incredible records, don't get me wrong, and I love them wholeheartedly, but they're just not as strong as the ones that came after it. It felt almost like, I mean, obviously you've got From Genesis to Revelation, which was kind of faltering, fumbly steps. It's fine. But it definitely felt like they knew what they were doing from Trespass onwards, and they definitely found their footing with Nursery Crime. But Foxtrot is when I really started to pay attention to the band and suddenly realized, okay, these guys know what's up. And that for me is why I have to start with that, because that was the first Genesis record I really got into. Because like so many people, my initial exposure to Genesis was the pop Genesis from the 80s. It was Invisible Touch, Land of Confusion, yada, 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 all that stuff and what have you. And it was only like many, many years later, when I actually started taking music more seriously, that I realized that Genesis did go a lot further back, and laugh all you want. I didn't even realize Peter Gabriel used to be the singer for Genesis. I just thought he was this solo artist, and I didn't realize for the longest time that he used to be the lead singer of Genesis. And I mean, in my defense, I was like 15, so I didn't know anything about anything. So that's my excuse, was ignorance back at the time, caused by youth.
No, that's fair.
But no, the whole Foxtrot through to Lamb Lies Down is incredible, even though it did take me a little while to get into Lamb Lies Down. But unlike Tales of Topographic Oceans, it definitely clicked with me, whereas Tales is still... I'm getting there with it. I'm getting it. Lamb Lies Down is a certain...
Lamb still needs to click for me, but I'll give it the objective perfection. Like,
oh yeah.
I've been ranking their albums for a show that's coming.
I can't wait for that.
So
I've been getting
deep into these records, and so it's
in
hard
fact,
to pick. I love Trick of the Tail too, so it's hard not.
It's amazing.
Foxtrot does have songs ready, and some of those iconic classic prog moments that's hard to deny for me.
Yeah, my opinion will probably change because I'm seeing Steve Hackett perform Foxtrot next week. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, if you guys haven't seen that video or heard it, the Foxtrot at 50, make sure you do, because it is brilliant.
Yeah,
nice.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I guess it's my turn.
Really?
So I'm going to follow the train and do the very easy and non-confrontational, very, the moment I say the artist, you guys will know exactly the 3 albums I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to be talking about Steven Wilson's solo stuff.
Yeah.
Let's all do it together.
We all already know the 3. It starts for Grace from Drowning, goes into The Raven, and it finishes with Hand Cannot Erase.
Yes, it does. No other option is available.
Yeah.
Does he even have other albums?
Well, I mean,
I will still go to
coming.
I will still go to bat for the Insurgents.
Yep.
So I've got the 3.
Has some good moments.
Still got the 3 here. Grace for Drowning was the one that made me have much more faith of him as a solo record, because like Insurgents I still love, and there's a part of me that loves, but it feels much more like an artist who is no longer confined to his band and is able to put out anything that he wants, regardless if it's polished or not. It's like, these are all my ideas that I have on here. I just needed to get them out after years of having them in my head. And now that they're out, I can move on and actually construct a full album with a consistent sound. And
that's why Insurgents never clicked with me.
It
feels like a bunch of ideas rather than songs.
Full-on songs. Yeah. And so when Grace for Drowning and the follow-up live album of I think is it Get All You Deserve? That just, it made me be like, okay, he is good on his own. He doesn't need a collaborator to work with. And then when he put out The Raven That Refused to Sing, it's still one of my favorite albums of all time. It's a masterpiece in modern prog. I know a lot of contemporaries think that it's too leaning on their influence, but I'm like, guys, have you heard of anything modern in prog at the moment? That's the entire industry. And he followed it up with an album that is just as good, but maybe a little bit less consistent, with Hand Cannot Erase. I put Raven first and Hand Cannot Erase just a little bit under, just because the concept gets muddled halfway through. And it's not quite as consistent. But that being said, the songs in that second half, like basically from Home Invasion on, is just perfect. Routine
so
makes
good.
me
Ancestral.
weep.
And
It's
Happy
like, it's
Returns
all-
at the end. Oh my
all- it's
god.
all
Ball
so
my
good.
eyes out.
You
Hey,
know, like
brother.
for the longest time, I would have said Raven was my favorite Steven Wilson solo artist, but I've been listening to Hand Cannot Erase a lot more recently, and
Good.
I'm really starting to kind of like it's bumping up above Raven now.
For me, Hand Cannot Erase is
Interesting.
perfect. It's a perfect.
I might
album.
have to. It's been a hot minute since I've heard Hand Cannot Erase, so maybe I'll dip back into it. But yeah,
And-
Raven for me is still top tier.
It always reminded me of The Incident in some way.
Yeah,
Oh,
I felt the
And
same
I don't
way.
know why.
I think for me at least, they follow a very similar structure,
Yeah, it's probably
and both have a very crystal clear concept going in that gets muddled about halfway
Yeah.
through.
And at the
Yeah.
end you're like,
And
what?
yeah, I'm like, Steven, can you just write a consistent concept?
Yeah,
Like,
focus.
just
He might very well be giving
Focus.
us that because coming.
I hope
Friday.
so. I
Oh.
hope so.
My-
I hope
my
so. I'm
pre-order
very
ready.
excited.
I get
Very
to meet
excited.
him in this
Yeah,
thing.
you
Like, I'm
bastard.
so
I know,
excited. I
every
can't
time.
wait. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, no big
Every
deal. Just
time.
gonna be there saying hi to Stephen Wilson. But the reality is, I'm
NBD,
like,
it's fine. It's fine.
I want to see pictures.
I will take plenty of
Absolutely.
pictures. I'll get a really awkward, blurry selfie as my hand will be trembling too much. I'll be like,
Oh man.
My face is
Majesty.
kind of.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Have you
So, yeah,
noticed
I-
though as well that like Stephen Wilson's weakest solo albums both feature his face and like Head and Shoulders on the cover? To the Bone
It's true.
and Future Bites. I'm just saying, there's a trend here,
Yeah.
guys.
It's you're not wrong. You're not
No.
wrong.
I've heard the singles that have come out from Harmony Codex so far, and I'm
haven't-
not going to
it's-
spoil anything.
Earmuffs.
I
But,
think you're in
um,
for a real treat.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I am very, very
From
excited.
what
I'm
I've
hoping.
heard-
I'm happy with it.
Okay, good,
Okay.
good.
I'm happy
That's
with it.
Like, I don't want him to completely like throw the baby out with the bathwater with the stuff that it came with that he learned from the Future Bites,
agree.
because I do think there was some good to come out of that. I just don't think it was a particularly well fleshed out and well realized
Well-
album. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
for me,
spoiling
it was,
anything.
No.
Yeah, for me, the
But
Future
yeah.
Bites was dead on arrival. He should have just put
Yeah,
it out
yeah.
when it was
When it was
scheduled to be
supposed to.
put out.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
because by the time it came out, I'm like, this is old news. I don't really care, right?
Yeah.
Which is really bad to say. But
I unironically
Yeah.
still like Perminating though, because it's basically Stephen
Yes.
Wilson's ABBA song,
But
and it's great
they're
fun.
two great pop albums.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask
Yeah.
for better pop albums.
No,
Yeah.
true
that's
enough,
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
But yeah, I'm very tentatively extremely excited for the Harmony Codex, and I can't wait to listen to it,
Yeah.
get my thoughts out on it, and all that sort of thing. Because I obviously will be reviewing it, just like every other prog reviewer and their mum. But you know,
Yeah.
we'll all have opinions, and I can't wait to hear everybody's about it. You know,
yeah,
Ooh,
I'm
It's
approaching
Friday.
it. Yeah,
it's
I'm
Friday.
approaching it with twice bitten, once shy. So
nice.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm going in with hesitance optimism. So
Nice.
Next.
Brent, I guess it's
All
you.
right.
it's over to you.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of promotion here for a Canadian group that I know all of us know, but some don't. And that's the group Mystery.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You should start with Beneath the Veil of Winter's Dream,
Okay.
Among the Living,
Yep.
and then The World Is Not a Game.
Their best one.
Oh, just brilliant 3-album run. I think you should
Yeah.
listen to it before you listen to the Jean Pajot phase. Listen to older
Yeah.
stuff and understand them a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The World is a Game is one of my favorite neo-prog albums of all time. The title track alone just makes me weep. It's just
Yeah.
so good. So beautiful.
I'll put listening to Mystery on my homework list. I'm familiar with the band, of course. I've actually listened to a fair bit of them, but I need to become more familiar with their music.
Yeah. And their latest
listened to
stuff is
that
still
new
pretty
one.
good. Yeah, I was going to
It
say
is.
the early
Redemption.
stuff is really good.
I gave Redemption a spin earlier this year. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I'm thinking I need to revisit it. But of course, the problem is with what we do, we've only got a finite amount of time to listen to 8,000 releases that have come out.
That's it.
But it's one of
Yeah.
those ones where, like, towards the end of the year, when I'm doing like my revisiting everything, I'll probably re-listen to it again and put a review out 7 months too late for anybody to actually.
Well,
It's
it's hard, and then sometimes I think,
Yeah.
is it worth doing them that fast?
always worth it. It's always worth it.
Like
Yeah. I was going to say Nathan's sitting behind one of them, so.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, see, it's right there. Yeah, Redemption just on the
Right there.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it though. I definitely enjoyed it.
That's good.
I just need to
Yeah.
give them a bit more credit and actually check into them a bit more.
I believe
So
it's
I'm
your
good for
turn.
one more.
One more
Yeah,
round.
for
Let's
one
do one
more
more
round.
round.
Oh gosh,
for
I've got to
one
make
more
I've got to
round.
make it a good one.
You got to make
Oh
the
my-
decision.
Yeah, same
Right.
here.
Oh
Because
god,
I've got
so
like
many to choose from.
I've got 3,
Couple
I'll
artists
probably
I've
I'll
gotta
probably
come up
do
with.
4 more
like-
bands I could go for.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quick fire some of the ones that I've got
Ooh,
here before I actually
okay.
do like my final
Okay,
one.
that's a good idea. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That-
Okay,
I'll
so,
do the same. I'll do the
Yeah.
same.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna quick fire Opeth. My Arms,
Yep.
Your Hearse, Still Life, Blackwater Park. Boom.
Yep.
Oof,
Near
Yep.
Obliviscaris, Portal of Ice, Citadel, Urn.
perfect.
Boom.
Love
Radiohead, The Bends, OK Computer, Kid A. Thank You Scientist.
Yeah.
They're 3 albums that they already
There are 3
have.
albums.
Yeah.
The 3 albums they
Um,
have.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard about the
Yes,
news
I
for Thank
did.
You Scientists.
Uh,
But apparently, unfortunately, Salvador is stepping down. I don't know if you heard that.
sucks.
Oh, no.
it is.
Yeah, it just.
That's
So I'm
a bit of a
so
blow.
I'm so glad that I got to see them when they were touring this past
I've
summer.
seen them
But
as well.
I
I
was
saw them
just
just
like,
before COVID. It was hell of
Yeah.
a freaking show.
I never got to see them.
it was just anyway. I
It's
had
sad.
to throw that in there.
Yeah. Coed in Cambria, Second Stage Turbine Blade, Keeping Secret Silent of 3, and Good Apollo and Burning Star 4 through Fear in the Eyes of Madness.
Okay.
Deep,
Reasonable.
yeah. Deep Purple and Rock, Fireball, Machine Head. No,
Yep,
obvious.
you're right.
Black Sabbath, self-titled Paranoid, Master of Reality. A little bit of a outlying one for me here. The Prodigy with Experience, Music for the Jilted Generation, and The Fat of the Land.
I was going to say you better have
Electronica.
Fatland on there.
Oh yeah, Fat of the Land's amazing. I'm going to be doing a classic review of that at some point in the near future.
Love that
as well.
album.
Spectacular. Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells, Hergest Ridge, and Omadorn.
Yeah.
And finally, before I get to my actual pick that I'm going to do, Cult of Luna with Vertical, Mariner, and A Dawn to Fear. It's like my favorite post-metal like in the entire world, especially Mariner, the one they did with Julie Christmas. Whoa, beautiful. Okay, let's actually get to the one that I actually really want to talk about, which is Leprous. We like a bit of Leprous. And this is always this is going to divide people because Leprous are obviously very two distinct halves at this point with their career.
Yeah.
And Travis probably knows exactly where I'm going to go with this.
No,
one,
I don't actually.
Do you not? Okay.
I have an
okay,
idea.
right.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay. Tall Poppy Syndrome, Bilateral, Coal.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
my run. That is my run
Okay.
for Leprous.
I would go with a
am-
different 3 albums. I'd
Same,
go more
same.
recent. But
I'm
yeah.
early. I'm an early Leprous stan. For me personally, I think that this run represents everything I enjoyed most about the band before it became Einar Solberg and Friends, which is fine. Which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I love Einar Solberg. I think he's wonderful. He's an incredible singer. But I do feel that the band very much became not quite a solo project. It just felt a lot more vocally centric. Whereas you got Tall Poppy Syndrome, which was this real sort of almost animalistic version of Opeth, much more primal sounding, kind of like more in line with that sort of still life era of Opeth, but with a lot more sort of like nails on a chalkboard sharpness to everything, you know. Whereas Still Life was very much the rumbling lows and the thunder. This was very much like the bolts of lightning and the acidic nature of the harshness of the vocals and everything like that. And then Bilateral came in, where it was like sort of like the blend between that sort of emerging cleaner style as well as the sort of like the acerbic viciousness to it all. And then finally culminating in Coal, where it just embraced that atmospheric darkness. And I don't think that the band have released a darker record since then. It's so atmospheric and so, they're not depressing, but it's so heavy. Like it's heavy like a lump of coal, exactly like that, and it's dark like a lump of coal and everything. But for me personally, Leprous were the band they were with the first few records with Tall Poppy Syndrome and Bilateral. Okay, admittedly there was one before that, but that's a demo. Like we wouldn't include the fifth Enter the Fifth Dimension from Haken. I can't remember. But regardless, Tall Poppy Syndrome and Bilateral for me are Leprous, and I've always found it strange to me. Like sometimes you get this cognitive dissonance between a band's name and the music they produce. Now we've got that with Leprous with their later stuff. We've got it with a band that I reviewed recently called Deadly Carnage, with a record called Endless Blue, which sounds nothing like what the band name suggests. Yeah. And
I've got my review coming out tomorrow.
Oh, can't wait. Love that.
So good.
But Leprous very much became a band who I don't think really fit the name with the sound of music they currently got going on. I still like New Leprous. New Leprous is still good, but my heart belongs to Old Leprous, which is the band that they were at the time, because I discovered them about the same time as Haken. And I've always sort of had it in my head that Leprous and Haken are to me what Opeth and Dream Theater were to earlier me. They feel like they fulfill that similar sort of injunction in my brain, like with what my musical appetites were demanding at the time. The heavier stuff coming from Leprous and the more melodic and clean stuff coming from Haken, much like Opeth and Dream Theater did for me before them. And just that initial run of 2 albums and then leading into the darkness of Cold, just for me is such a perfect run, and I just love it so much.
It's funny because the only time I ever saw Leprous live was opening for Haken.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I
I've
see both of them.
I've
that was my own little modern
well,
progressive nation tour.
Yeah.
I saw them open for that. I saw them when
we were at that show together, I think.
We were, and I saw them once before, and Earthside got to open up for them, which was just a brilliant. And they were doing their Congregation album, and then I saw them, I think, like every other release since then when they've come over. So my run would start with Bilateral, go into Cole, and then go into the Congregation. Though that's my three.
And then I'm shifting up one more album from that. Mine would start with Cole, go to the Congregation, and Melina is a really good record. Like I think it's a great record.
I like it. It was the first. Record. It was the first that was Inard and Friends for me.
But it was also the one that I kind of discovered them through. Like,
and that's
So for me, that's the one closest to my heart. It's the only one of theirs I own on vinyl. So
there you go.
There you go. Yeah, amazing.
Mine would probably be their latest 3, just because I think
that's fair.
That's totally fair.
Solberg stuff.
That's on brand.
His solo record's really good as well. Like 16.
Oh, solo
I haven't heard it yet.
Really good.
Oh, it's very good.
I need to check that out.
My favorite track is the hip hop track that has the guitarist from Bent Knee on it.
Yeah, that's a really good song.
His name is something Levin. His
Ben Levin.
Ben Levin.
Yeah,
it was so good.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to go on to me, and I'm going to rapid fire a couple of the choices that I had that didn't make the cut for this. One very, very much a me choice, Durand Gray, Europaris, Dum Spiro Spiro Arche. Another one, Boston's first 3 albums.
Okay. Yeah.
And this one is ×2, King Crimson, Lark's Tongue, Starless Red, but also Discipline, beat 3 of a Perfect Pair.
Yeah.
I can't decide between the
Mike just threw up in his mouth.
A little bit. It's fine. Everybody's got their taste.
I like the 80s stuff.
I know people do.
So now I'm going to go to my actual last choice. This one might be a little controversial.
Ooh, we love that.
Meshuggah.
Ooh.
Destroy, Erase, Improve, Chaos Sphere, and Nothing.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
And I don't know if I can think of another 3 album spread that any of us have done where the 3 albums sound so different but are also still like within the same wheelhouse. So I'm gonna make no secret of this. I'm not really a big fan of Meshuggah's more recent material.
No,
I
it's
feel
fine.
like they've kind of done the Dream Theater thing where like their early material was like all over the map and innovative, and it seemed like with every album they were coming out with like they were one-upping themselves every time. Then they kind of just like, all right, here's Obs End Part 4.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I'm a big, you know, gentophile, whatever you want to call it.
Gentleman.
And gentleman.
Gentleman. I like that.
I mean, for me, I'm a big proponent of guitars that have
Here's your 8-string boy.
no 7, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm a big proponent of guitars that have way too many strings.
Hell
And
yeah.
you know, for a lot of people in the 90s, they would cite a band like Korn or Limp Bizkit as being the genesis of their love affair with extended range guitars. But for me, it was Meshuggah and Dream Theater. And Destroy, Erase, Improve came out around the same time as Korn's debut album. So they were kind of in on this innovative, you know, thing right around the genesis of it. And I mean, that album just so many great riffs, so many great like moments on that record. And it was like one of the few where they really emphasized the sort of jazz fusion influence they had. And it's something I really wish they'd bring back. Because like
nice.
I love that sort of like when they go into the softer parts and it all sounds a little Alan Holdsworth-ish. And yeah, I love that. And it's like one of the last albums they did where there's still like notes in the vocals. It's a little thrashy.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And then Chaos Sphere was just like, let's take everything about Destroy, Erase, Improve, and then ramp it up to 11. Like, let's just make the heaviest, noisiest, most chaotic, industrial death.
It's so disgusting, and I love it.
It is the raunchiest metal album I can think of.
It's the most stank face I've ever gotten listening to music, and I love it.
And I don't think any band since has actually like done what Meshuggah did with Chaos Sphere. Like, yeah, there are heavier records. There's more death metal. There's more chaotic records. But I think like this album is just the perfect mix of organized chaos. And then with Nothing, they just did a complete 180 flip and went from like, all right, we've done like the most brutal, chaotic, everything at like 200 beats per minute with like time signatures you'll never be able to bang your head to. Let's lay back and groove the hell out of this. And that opening riff, like right from that first riff in Stenga, you're just stank face for the next like 50 minutes.
Yes.
Straws Pulled at Random might just be like the pinnacle of extreme metal for me. Like, the first half is just, it punches you in the gut, and then that outro in Straws Pulled at Random just, it washes over you.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those like rare things where it's an extreme metal record and it's so loud and in your face and like, and yet it has an ambience to it. It has like, even though there's like basically no melody on that record, it has a melodic kind of sensibility.
Yeah, there's qualities of it too, definitely. Yeah.
These three records are so different from one another, but all three of them are brilliant at what they do. And all three of them have, in their own way, sort of informed all of the modern extreme metal and progressive metal that have come after it. Like, I mean, you look at bands like Sixth and Periphery and Tesseract, and they're all taking aspects of these three records.
I'm pretty sure those bands wouldn't exist without these records at all.
Absolutely.
Like, modern progressive metal as a whole probably wouldn't.
Oh yeah.
And these are just so good. Like, these are my three favorite extreme metal records, I think.
I think for me, when it comes to Meshuggah, I nearly agree, but I'd extend it a little further for me. I mean, I'm kind of a Nothing, Catch 33, and Obson kind of guy. yourself?
I like Catch 33 and Obzen. Yeah, Obzen's good. It's just like, to me, Obzen is about the start of their
Yeah, no,
period where
that's
like
fair.
everything
That's fair.
kind of sounds the same after it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not right. I mean,
yeah. I was gonna say, for me,
Colossus,
Obzen
Violent
is
Sleep.
my favorite metal, like my favorite album from them. So it has a special place in my heart. Yeah.
I think we should get Nathan to listen to Sugar. It'll go down very well.
Jana
no,
reacts. Jana reacts to
Oh,
Sugar.
don't do
Oh,
it! Don't
can
do
you-
it!
Well, what you do is you put on the Wolf of Wall Street Rational Gaze video, and everybody has a good time.
Yes.
Yes.
I like juice. It is a pure filtered vitamin substance.
That's
My
me.
favorite misheard lyrics of all time. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's very good. Oh boy.
All right, I guess
Nathan?
I'll do some
Nathan.
rapid fire ones too, I guess. I had Jethro Tull's Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Passion Play was
So do
one
I.
of mine. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, their first
Ooh.
3 albums, the self-titled
Ooh.
Tarkus and Trilogy,
Yep.
would have been mine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Getting into a little bit of that Neil Morse stuff, Spock Spirit was hard to do, but I think maybe Day for Night 5 and Snow would have been mine.
We're gonna put a pin in that one.
Transatlantic would have been probably the first 3 albums, Sympty, Bridge, and Whirlwind.
Yeah.
Flower Kings was hard to do. That's one of my favorite groups. I was thinking Stardust, Flower Power, and Space Revolver.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my 3. I
Yeah.
was considering Wobbler, Rights at Dawn, From Silence to Somewhere, and Dwellers of the Deep was a
Yep.
good run. Beardfish, Sleeping in
Ooh,
Traffic,
yes.
Part 1 and Part 2, and Destiny
That's
Solitaire.
hard though. Yeah.
I gotta agree with Nathan on that though. Gotta agree with that
Yeah.
one.
And Big Train, English Electric, Part 1, Part 2, and Folklore. I thought.
Yeah,
was
you're correct in that. You're correct in that.
I'd bring that tiny bit back, a tiny bit back, kind of under Full Yard, and then both English Electrics.
English Electric 1 and 2. In my mind,
that's
English Electric Part 1 and 2 is one album in the full
yeah,
electric. So
yeah.
you can do both.
Okay,
You can do
okay,
both.
we'll do that. We'll go under
Yeah.
we'll go under full English Electric and Folklore. We'll go
I'll
with that.
agree if that's possible. Sure.
Yeah, we'll cheat. Bye.
I was gonna talk about. I think it was briefly mentioned, but Opeth. My 3, maybe controversial, would probably be Damnation, Ghost Reveries, and Watershed. I think.
Yeah.
That's a good run.
That's a good run.
That's a good run.
That's the run I'd pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So-
I have the same problem that you guys had with Dream Theater, where there's a run and then one that kind of breaks the run, right? So it's so hard for me to choose a run of I would almost want to do Pale Communion, Sorceress, and Incata Vinitum, their last 3, because of how strong all 3 of those were.
It's a good pick,
My
too.
Arms, Your Hearse, Still Life in Blackwater Park.
Yeah, I mean, that's there. Much like Dream Theater, there's no wrong answer for this.
No, it's true. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and I guess my
Apart
main
from
one-
Heritage, which I don't like.
We'll
That's
put
just
that
me.
one on.
Yeah, that's just me.
Oh, come on, guys.
Eh,
I like Heritage.
eh.
It's like Marge holding up the potato. I think it's neat.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, my main one I guess I'll pick because it's one of my favorite classic prog groups is Gentle Giant.
Okay.
And I really like their run of In a Glass House, Power and the Glory, and Freehand.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I
Yep.
can see going both sides. I could see starting with Three Friends. I could see, starting with Power and the Glory and including an interview even. But
Yeah.
probably for me,
Yeah.
it's right In a Glass House to Freehand era is what I
Wow.
really.
Yeah. Mine is Acquiring the Taste, Three Friends, and Octopus. As much as I would love to include the debut, those 3 for me is like that's my heart right there.
I mean, you can't go wrong with basically the first half of Gentle Giant's discography.
Everything up till Interview, really. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, great
you
choice.
got like The Missing Piece and Giant for a Day, and it's just like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no,
Oh no.
what have you
Yeah.
done?
which is such a shame because my introduction to the band was Giant for a Day. That was
Oh.
the album that my dad had.
My condolences.
And I was just like, why does everybody love this band? They're not that great.
Yeah, I mean, I've only fairly recently been getting into Gentle Giant in the last 6 months or so. So it's been a real interesting discovery for me to really sort of explore all this sort of stuff. Because obviously, like, loads of people going, oh, there's so many Gentle Giant influences in Haken. I'm like, yeah, but I've never really listened to them. So let's fix that. And so I did.
Yeah. Amazing.
I've
No, that's
been
a
loving
great
my
album.
time with Gentle Giant. They've been so
Yeah.
good. But I can't disagree with Nathan's run, to be honest with you. It's superb, especially for me. Power and the Glory is so good. I love that record.
Freehand
Yeah,
for
which
me,
is-
like I love that
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
Freehand is
Yeah.
pretty-
I think, yeah, Power and the Glory is the one that I have the most difficulty with, but I still
Oh,
love.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
That's when it really clicked for me, because like everything up, because I was listening to them sort of like in reverse chronological order, because
Mhm.
that tends to be what I do. And again, I found it difficult to get into because obviously the last albums were a bit. But then when I got to Freehand, I started getting it. I was like, okay, no, I understand this now. But weirdly, Power and the Glory just clicked for me like immediately. And I don't know, it's because if I'd listened to so much Gentle Giant at that point that I was starting to get used to what to expect from them at that point.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a really, really good record, and I just kept listening to it. It's just really good for me. I love it.
That's great. Amazing. I guess it's my go.
Guess it's your turn.
Okay, so a real rapid pace here. I maybe you guys talked about it, so I'm gonna shoot out some of mine. Metallica was one that I'm shocked nobody talked about, starting with Ride the
Tempted.
Lightning, going into Puppets, and then going into And Justice for All.
Bass.
Flawless, yeah.
Yeah, I have to mention my girl Kate Bush.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to figure out where to start with that was always really hard, but I think I'd go Never Forever, going into The Dreaming, and then Hounds of Love.
Yeah. Legit.
This one was really hard. Queen was
Ooh,
one.
yeah.
I would start with Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack, and then Night at the Opera.
Yeah. Perfect.
I think that one's pretty non-controversial. Into some
Safe
more safe pick, right? For some metal stuff, Protest the Hero. Their first 3 records, Kaza, Fortress, and Scurrilous.
Hell yeah.
Just 3 perfect Canadian
Yeah.
intense metal albums.
All of their records for me.
All of their
Palimpsest or whatever
records,
it's
really.
They're all
You can't go
perfect.
wrong.
Palimpsest or whatever it's been called. The last one was so freaking good.
So
I love
good.
I hated
So
the
good.
vocals on it at first, but the more I listen to it, the more it's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's really good.
Big Precious Hero fan. That band.
This one was hard, but I would also go Arion. Start with Human Equation, then go 010110001, and then end it off with Theory of Everything.
I'd go back an album.
That's fair. That's fine.
Gotta have
But I would listen.
No, wait.
It's Universal Migrator Part 2.
Yeah, if
Why
for
was I
me,
looking
hard
into
thing.
the Electric Castle? Okay, yeah,
Because
you're
everybody
right.
skips
No,
over the Universal
Yeah.
Migrator.
You're correct.
Universal
you're correct.
Migrator Part 1, I love. Universal Migrator
Yeah.
Part 2 is fine.
it's like
I'm
for
the
me,
opposite.
I've always
but yeah.
And that's fine.
associated those as like one double album though. So like if we're gonna do the English
Yeah.
Electric thing, I think we can do the Universal
true,
Migrator
that's true.
thing. So if that is the case, then it goes Electric Castle, Universal Migrator, and Human Equation for me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
with this guy. He's
That's-
this direction on my screen.
Yeah, you guys are between me, so I'm
Yeah.
caught in the middle, right?
I don't know where the hell I am.
we're all
I
different
still
places.
can't see myself.
Yeah.
We can see.
Yeah, so that would be mine. For more personal stuff that is far outside of Prague, Weird Al,
Ooh, okay.
Alapalooza, Bad Hair Day, and Running with Scissors.
Yes.
Excellent.
3 perfect
Excellent.
albums. Going
Perfect.
into my childhood with Our Lady Peace.
Ooh.
Now this is controversial. I'd start with Clumsy, Happiness is Not a Fish You Can Catch, and then going into Spiritual Machines.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw those
Spiritual
guys live
Machines.
recently.
Apparently, they're
Right.
still, yeah.
Yeah.
They put out Spiritual Machines 2 as an NFT, and now it's worthless. So, there's a little bit of egg on their face.
Yeah. My friend Shane and I went to see Our Lady Peace at Bell Park here in Sudbury recently, and they were spot on.
If you haven't listened to Our Lady Peace, those 3 albums, Happiness is still my favorite of theirs, but from Clumsy all the way to Spiritual Machines is great. But so even though Nathan glossed over Spock's beard, I gotta steer the ship back.
Yeah.
And
Love
this one was the hardest out of all of them, because there's so many different, and this actually might be the most controversial picks out of the bunch. I would start with their self-titled work, go into X, and then end off with Brief Nocturnes and Sleepless, Dreamless Sleep.
They're self-titled.
I love the self-titled. I love the self-titled. I know.
As long
I
as
know
you're not
some
starting
people-
with Feel Euphoria, I don't think.
I mean, Feel the Euphoria and Octane are fine, but I still feel like those two.
Everyone
on,
cares about your guy named
Amanamapina or Anamanapia.
That's okay.
That was the band trying to find themselves after Neil left, and
Yeah,
I feel like
fair.
they really found themselves with the self-titled work, and then like really came together and polished off all the rough edges with X and
X is
Brief
really
Nocturnes.
good,
I'll give you this. I'll give you this. The opening track on the self-titled "On a Perfect Day."
yeah.
I love
that
that
is good.
song. That's such a good song.
I love the instrumental, the following track. That's all Rio. That is still one of my favorite compositions from Spock's Beard. And I think that the self-titled gets overlooked, and I would listen to self-titled well before I'd listen to the Oblivion Particle, or the Oblivion Particle. I'm not a big fan of the last two records. So
no, they've been a bit mid. It's just like fine.
and as much as I love the Neil Morse stuff, I think that those three records, for me, are the stronger albums for me for Spock's Beard. And I know it's a controversial and spicy take, but that's for me.
I think with like Spock's
Titled
Beard
has like, sorry,
no,
Titled has like a good like 50-minute album in there, but it's a little long. I think.
And I still I love their attempt at an epic, but that's chopped up into different segments. I still listen to that and I still love it, but I know it's not for everybody, and I know some people are just like, ooh, but I don't know, I love it.
They're another one of those bands though, where like much like when we were talking about Dream Theater earlier, it's like it's difficult to get a 3-album run because there's always one sour. Like early on, I'm not huge on Beware of Darkness. It's good, but I'm not like loving it. Day for Night, I like, but I don't love. And then you got like Feel Euphoria, and Octane, and self-titles, and I'm like, let's just ignore it. Then got X, Brief Nocturnes, and then the Oblivion Particle ruins it a little bit. So, like for me, like I want to include Snow. I really want to include Snow because that's one of my favorite albums ever. And V as well before it is incredible, but I'm so mid on Day for Night that it's hard for me to do that as my 3-album run, Day for Night, V, and Snow. So if I had to, because I prefer Beware of Darkness to Day for Night, I would go The Light, Beware of Darkness, and The Kindness of Strangers in that order, personally.
Yes, and that's where I love those early albums, but there's just some moments on there that I don't quite connect with as much, whereas I connect with everything from those latter 3 records. Yeah,
I just love The Light. The Light is one of my favorite debut albums ever. It's such a strong statement from a band just like doing their thing. And The Kindness of Strangers, I think, is such a charming album. I think it's got so many charming songs on it. Like, what is it? The Save the Nation, Sunday morning, 12 o'clock.
Strange World.
Very strange.
Good Don't Last.
It's so good. I love it. I will bop to that song so often. Like if I can't think of and June is a wonderful song. I love that. Song. And I just love Spock's Beard in general. Like even like when Spock's Beard aren't good, I still love them because it's like watching your favorite child do something stupid, and they're doing something stupid, but you love them anyway.
You've done 3 stupid things in a row.
Exactly. But it's just could you like stop falling onto your face for like 12 seconds and they look up at you with broken teeth smiling through the blood and you think, oh, I still love them.
Oh, it's so cute.
Spock's beard, even at the worst, it's like, oh, that's cute,
Yeah. And I still love the fact that even though they haven't put out anything from Floor Noise, which deserves to stay on the floor, they at least
I liked it.
I get it. it's not for me, but like the spirit of Spock's Beard is carried on with like Pattern Seeking Animals,
Oh,
and
yeah.
those first four albums are really, really good. You know,
Yeah.
so
Four
at
albums,
least
yeah.
we still have that.
And Ryo Okamoto's solo record that came
Ryo's
out.
solo
yeah,
And
that's-
Ryo Okamoto put out the best Spock's
Yeah.
Beard album
Yes, he
since
did.
Brief Nocturnes.
Yes,
So
he
We
did.
need Alan
Yeah,
Morse to
100%.
do something, and then we have like
Yes, please.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
that'd be
Guys,
great.
yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
definitely.
So yeah, that was my I wanted to leave the spiciest take for the end for me.
Well, I've got a couple rapid fires, and that, of course, is going to be Eloy,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ocean,
Yep.
and Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes.
Yeah.
A little bit of Uriah Heep.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at yourself. Yeah.
Demons, Wizards.
And
And the Magician's Birthday.
Yeah.
You are correct. That is the correct order.
Yep.
Pretty
Yep.
hard to beat.
Yeah.
Then my last main pick is another trilogy. This time is Jethro.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
starting
an
with
actual
Songs from the
trilogy.
Woods. Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And
He
Stormwatch.
often,
Yeah.
Excellent.
he
Excellent.
often refers to it as his environmental trilogy, because that's kind of all the songs are
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Heavy
absolutely.
Horses. Heavy
Yeah.
Horses is one of my favorite, like, Jethro
Yeah.
Tull
Songs from the
albums
Wood
ever.
for me
Hands
is
yeah, so good.
love Songs
Title
from the
track. Whew.
Wood.
I'll make love to you.
Yeah.
I love that song. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good sort of like non-standard pick as well. Because most people, like I say, I mean, I'm not going to try and pretend otherwise. I will go can't remember, Aqualung, Fix a Brick, and or if I'm getting
Same.
and
Yeah.
Passion Play, like
Oh, easily.
yeah. But that is an extremely solid second pick for me in terms of like 3 in a row. That's because I can't fault those albums. They're really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for and I'm probably going to butcher the order, but it's Tool, Too Young to Die, Too Old to Rock and Roll.
Oh yeah.
Minstrel.
Yeah, Minstrel in the Gallery, and I've got it on to War Child. Like I can't remember which order those go
I
in,
think
but
that's
there's
right.
3.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah,
to say
those
that's
are
right.
those are pretty good Jethro Tull records too.
Yeah.
I mean, I
mean,
love Minstrel.
Minstrel in the
Minstrel's
Gallery is
awesome.
just so good. Yeah.
Such a good record.
But again, I always feel like they get overshadowed by the classic that is Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Passion Play.
Their whole discography does, really.
It's just so solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
70 albums.
I
70.
just don't understand why nobody's picking the like Catfish, Rising, Roots to Branches, and jtoll.com. I mean, come on, let's go with the real classics here, guys.
Let's go with
Come
the
on.
real deep cuts here.
Yeah, I'll start with Under Wraps. Why not? Go with a Crest.
I would
Rock
take
Island.
Under Wraps over some of those 90 albums.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
fair. No, that's fair. I
Well, what
tried
about their
this-
Christmas album?
It's good.
Yeah,
kind of like
It
it.
is a good album,
I
actually.
kinda
gotta
like
love that Christmas album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I just don't much care for what they've been since they came back with the Zealot Gene. I don't know.
Rock Flute was fine. Rock Flute, I had a good time.
I still haven't
with.
listened to it. It's been on my list.
It's
for
better.
months.
It's better than the Zealot Gene. I'll tell you that much.
Okay,
It's much
okay.
better than the Zealot Gene.
Okay, I'll take that. I mean, I
Take
did
it
hear
for
that
what
they were
it
thinking
is.
of going instrumental,
Yeah.
and I kind of wish they would, because let's be real, some vocalists age quite well with their voices. Look at Peter Gabriel, for crying out loud. He still
Yeah.
sounds magnificent. And then you've got Ian Anderson, who at least he can still breathe, so he can play the flute. Which is, but I just think, it's like Lou, it's like Lou Reed in his latter years. It's just like, no.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good time.
But hey, I mean, they're a classic legacy band, and I will always love Jethro Tull because they've got such a astonishing legacy behind them. Like pretty much, I mean, Stand Up was amazing, but Benefit I wasn't as big on. But basically everything from Aqualung up until, I suppose there was a couple of dips here and there. Like War Child was fine, not super amazing, but they're a fairly consistent amount of work that they quite.
Even some of their mid to late 80s stuff like Beast and Broadsword and Crest of a Knave are still
Crest of
I
a Knave
spin
is
those
really
every once
good.
in a while.
It's
Yeah.
decent. It's decent.
Yeah. I mean, one of them outbeat Metallica for the best metal record. So
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
Crest of a Knave. Yeah.
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 So what's that about?
So, it's got to be good.
Yeah, right.
Or for the
I love-
popularity contest.
I love the story that when they won that award, like first of all, they were just told, don't show up to the Grammys, you have no chance.
Yeah.
And then after they had won the award, just to piss people off, they put out an ad in one of like the big newspapers of the time, calling or saying that like the flute is a heavy metal instrument.
Ah,
Yeah.
literally, yeah.
Literally,
literally.
a heavy metal instrument.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that sass. That's
That's a good
great.
time.
That's classic Ian Anderson sass
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love it.
Awesome.
Great. Was that? I think that's it, boys.
I think that's
Think
it,
so.
guys. Yeah.
We did another one.
That's
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
It was great fun. I really enjoyed this. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to get back together again.
Definitely
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
Well-
I feel like I missed people since the previous quarterly review. I was just like, no, I'm not around. Damn it.
And we still
Don't
got to
worry, we'll
figure
get
out
you-
the actual quarterly review.
Yeah, it'll
Well, that's
happen.
coming
It'll
up
happen.
soon.
It's coming up.
I still need to think of my choices.
Some of them.
I've got to say, Nathan's upset my apple cart recently with that Bear Ghost recommendation because, goddamn, I cannot
Yeah.
stop listening to that. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a
I
fun
love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Every time I think I have my favorite one, something
Yeah.
comes and knocks it off.
Damn it.
Same. It's like a cat
Yeah.
knocking things onto the
It
ground.
is.
isn't
I
It
already
is.
have my disappointment, and it's
it?
going
Same.
to be controversial.
Right.
No
Yeah.
spoilers. No spoilers.
No
spoilers.
spoilers.
I've got I have my disappointment and my surprise, but I haven't got my favorite quite yet.
Yeah.
Getting there.
I don't
That's
have
for another
I don't
video.
have a surprise. I'm
Aw.
not very surprised by anything I hear anymore.
I have a
Yeah.
surprise. I have a surprise.
Telling you, Travis, Bear Ghost. Telling you.
Bear
Okay.
Ghost.
Yeah,
Amazing.
check it
I'll
out.
prepare to be surprised.
Oh, it's ridiculous fun. I cannot stop. I've listened to it about 7 times. I was like, I love this so much.
Oh boy.
I believe I've obviously something for another video. Not this.
All right, guys. Night.
Being real,
All right.
guys.
Good night, everybody.
Stay real.
Take
Thank-
care.
Bye.